Our show is titled Consequences of Dating a Narcissist/Sociopath. And we'll be joined by Trenton. I don't even want to say his last name. I feel like I'm going to say it wrong. I'm going to say Trenton. That's what I think he's known for anyway, Trenton. You know, he has a YouTube channel, and he discusses, people with personality disorders such as sociopaths, narcissists, and people with borderline personality disorder. Those types of behavior issues, those mental illnesses, and what it's like, what his experience was like, being married to one. But I never want. I'm gonna just let him speak for himself. So we about to go ahead and bring Trenton on, and I'm gonna let him speak for himself. So without further ado, let's bring the man of the hour on. Trenton, welcome to It's Real Talk Radio.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. I appreciate the invitation, and I applaud you for covering this topic.
Definitely, man. I appreciate that. And I was motivated. You one of the people that inspired me because, it's one of those things where it's like, if you're a person that ends up in that situation, it's like you trying to understand. If you haven't experienced it before, none of your loved ones or friends experience, it's like you won't understand. And we're gonna get into all of that. It's so much to talk about. Before we even get started, I want to ask you, Trenton, how has your new year been? How was your 2015, and what are you looking forward to in 2016?
Well, you know what? I'm really excited about 2016. I am. It's off to a great start. 2015 was interesting because it was the first year I spent the entire year away from the person that brought about this subject that we're talking about, my ex-wife. I was spent the entire year out of that relationship, so there was some pain, but a lot of growth, a lot of healing, and by the end of 2015, I was feeling good, really enjoying my life without the drama, without all the hurt and all that stuff. And 2016 is off to a great start. I've got some new business proposals going on, and relationship stuff is good, and I just have a great life. I really do. Blessed.
That's great to hear, man. That's great to hear. And I'm glad that your story has a good ending. It's like the hero doesn't get shot and killed at the end for your story. That's good to know that the hero makes it at the end, But it was a lot of darkness before you finally made it to the light. And we're gonna take a trip and revisit, that experience and shed light for the listeners who may have not found your channel, who may be confused, trying to understand why they're going through what they're going through. Because before we have you start, I'll just say, this is one of those situations where, it will definitely have you, like, just not, you'll just be like, not know, you won't understand. Like, you'll be like, just scratching your head, like, why? But what? I don't get it. Like, why would this person say this? Why would they do that? Why is this person behaving like this? Why this? Why that? Why am I going through this? Why is like this person does not understand what they're doing to me? If you have to say that, then you could be dating someone with a personality disorder. You could be dating someone who is a sociopath, narcissist, and it's so many different terms, but a lot of them are very similar. I'm gonna just let you go, Trenton. I'm gonna let you go ahead and kind of get into your story a little bit, and then we'll take it from there. But let's rewind back a little bit and discuss about how your situation was and how you ended up determining that this person had a mental illness.
Okay, yeah, and what you just said is really important, I think, because you really don't realize until you're pretty deep in one of these relationships. I think now I would recognize it pretty quick. I kind of have. But if you're not familiar and you don't know what's taking place, you're highly manipulated. There's a lot of conditioning that these people. I just kind of categorize it as the cluster B personality disorders. It's what I've found. That covers a lot of different personality disorders, kind of in the same family of each other. Borderlines, sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists. There's a whole group of them, and they share a lot of the same symptoms. For me, when I was trying to understand this, and after the end, when I'm trying to figure it all out, it was important. I wanted to put a title to it. I wanted to understand what is it that she has. Why does she do this? And that was an important part of this, but now where I'm at today, it's like it doesn't matter what the title is. It's the traits, it's the unacceptable way you're treated. It really matters. And so to categorize it, to title it, now that doesn't really matter. But at one time it was pretty important so I could have a better understanding. So you just want me to kind of tell you what my experience was?
Yeah, you know what? And I almost feel kind of bad to have to, take you back there. I know you're in a good space right now, but, we're just doing this for the people who are in pain right now, who are trying to understand, who are going through that mental torture that you, and Nizzy all know about.
Sure. I'm more than willing to do it.
They kind of bring us up slowly from that, beginning, middle, and then where you're at now.
Yeah, and I want to point out that originally when I started doing my videos and talking about this, kind of my goal was to take my negative experience and turn it into something positive. So it always gave it some purpose, and so it gave me a good feeling about talking about it. And for a long time, it was pretty painful to discuss it. But where I'm at now, I've gotten to a place where I can really talk about it without reliving all the emotion. I had to take kind of a break. On my videos, you'll see it just kind of suddenly stops. I did a lot of videos, but then it just kind of stops, and that's because I needed to settle into my new, quote, normal life. And it was kind of good to break away from it for a while. But now I can discuss it and not have that feeling that I'm reliving it. And so it's no problem at all, and I'm more than happy. If it can help anybody out there, I'm more than happy to do it. So, a little of the history with me, obviously I just kind of run through it. I met, this is my ex-wife, of course, I'm talking about. At the time that I met her, I was married. I had been married for many years and was happily married and had a good marriage. And the ex-wife that I'm discussing, she was just a waitress at a restaurant, and we became familiar with her. She's very charming, almost abnormally charming, I think you would say, and she became a friend. And she was flirtatious, but I never really took that too serious in the beginning. I just kind of thought it was her personality. What happened with me is pretty sad stuff. Pretty bad things happened. My first wife was diagnosed with cancer, and during the time that we were having, she was getting her treatments and stuff. Of course, this was like a tragic thing in my life for my family, and my now ex-wife that was we had become friends with, the narcissist or sociopath. She started doing things for my family, which I appreciated and respected. While I'm taking care of my wife, she was bringing food over for the family. She'd go to the store for us. She was doing things around the house that were helpful, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I know now that she was kind of laying the groundwork for this relationship. And to make a long story short, unfortunately, my first wife passed away, and the second wife, the one with the personality disorder, had aligned herself and kind of laid all this groundwork. Very calculated. I didn't know at the time that's what she was doing. Looking back now, it's pretty clear. But I wasn't in the mental state to really see it, and it was very vulnerable, and I think that's an important part of this. These people seek out vulnerability, and they definitely use it. And, you know, to me, I look at it, and it's about the most disgusting scenario that a person could use. You know, a person who's watching their spouse pass away, you know, and yet for her that was an opportunity. And you know, over some time after my wife passed, you know, I had now become pretty good friends with this ex-wife of mine, and then, you know, at some point I'm lonely, I'm sad, I'm in that spot, and she made her advances, and ultimately we began a relationship. And you know, there's a kind of an analogy that I've read that how do you boil a frog? You know, if you put a frog in a boiling pot of water, they'll jump out. But if you put a frog in a pot of water that's room temperature and you slowly turn up the heat, they don't even know they're being boiled. And that's exactly what happened with me. When you're dealing with these people, there's 3 steps, 3 phases that they use, and one is first is idealization, where they kind of put you on a pedestal, and you know, they say all the right things, and they are very, very skilled at that, and that's what kind of sets the hook. But it's idealization, devaluation, and then the discard phase. And so they make you feel like, I remember my ex making me feel like she was the perfect catch. I mean, the perfect catch. And I remember thinking this is too good to be true, and it was, you know, I mean, obviously. And then over time they start devaluing you. Little insults and the many, many, many tactics they use to start chipping away, and it's all part of their conditioning. They're calculated and they know exactly what they're doing, but you're not aware of it. And then ultimately the discard phase, where they can walk away from you as if you never existed, like you meant nothing to them. And that process, that cycle in itself is pretty ugly and very hurtful. But to make it worse, they toggle back and forth between all 3. And they use it to make you sink lower and lower and lower and lower. And by the end of this relationship with my ex, I was walking on eggshells on a daily basis. I could no longer trust my own instincts. I had been manipulated and conditioned to the point that I was barely functional. I mean, I lost jobs. Relationships that I've had all my life were damaged. I was, in fact, somebody mentioned it the other day, and my daughter was in the room, and they asked her about how it was watching this happen to me, and she said I was so much different during that time, and you know, it just changes you, and you kind of lose the ability to think for yourself.